Moana 2 hits big in a 5-day holiday weekend. Wicked stirs controversy amongst moviegoers. And what films are on a Christmas week collision course? Hear this and so much more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Screen. I'll be your host today. My name is Ryan Gum. With me, as always, I'm joined by Jacob Holtzclaw. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Great Monday.
Yes, sir. Fantastic Monday. We've got a stacked lineup for you in terms of news this week that I know you're just itching to hear, so we'll just go ahead and hop right into it. First off, if you've not heard about what movies came out this past week, you must have been living under a rock, because if you've turned on the TV or if you've watched YouTube, done anything where there will be a commercial, you've seen one of three trailers. The first off being Moana 2. After originally being planned as a Disney Plus series, Moana 2 hit theaters this past Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, commencing a long 5-day weekend for cinema. Over this extended window, where there was a lot more room for people sitting at home, they're off of work, visiting family, kind of having what's a family outing? Let's go to the movies. A lot of opportunity was had for a lot of major films that released within the last week and a half or the last couple of days, and these films took advantage. Once again, specifically Moana 2. Earning $221 million, smashing the midweek open record set by the Super Mario Brothers movie last April. They set a $204.6 million record. Done. Kaput. Completely blown out of proportion. This weekend in general, the top three being Moana 2, Wicked, and Gladiator 2, the last two having this been their second weekend, all together helped rake in over $422 million. This is a Thanksgiving weekend record, which the previous record was $315.6 million. Jake, what do you think of this amazing weekend for film?
I mean, when you put these two films together, so Moana 2, you're getting the audiences, the little kids, the full family, the whole family goes and sees it. It's got the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson appeal to it that some might not like, but so many more love. And then you've got Wicked, who can appeal to even older audiences. So mom can get in on it. Teenagers love it. They might love it a little too much. They're getting in trouble for singing, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think it's the right move for cinema. Like this weekend, Thanksgiving. Moana 2 hit it on the nose. It's exactly when you're supposed to come out with a kids movie because everybody's able to go see it.
Oh, yeah. A genius marketing tactic for sure in terms of release date picks. Keep that in mind with what you said about Dwayne Johnson. We'll come right back to it. Finishing on Moana 2 real quick. The film earned $389 million worldwide, which is an animated film record. We've listed our top three. We've got Moana 2, Wicked, and Gladiator 2 for those who missed it. 4, Red One. Red One sticks around in the top 5. We talked a lot about Red One last week. We will not harp on it as much this week. However, with Red One remaining in the top 5 in the box office, this is its third week in a row, Dwayne Johnson sets a rare feat amongst movie stars. This man has 2 films in the top 5 of box office, with 2 of them in the top 4. Red One earns another $12.9 million on the weekend with a 2.5 drop. If you know anything about drops, they're going to happen every week. So when you're in the box office, the longer you're in, naturally, the less people want to go see you because the people have seen it. They've talked about it. People kind of know what the gist is. When you have such a bad opening weekend as Red One, $250 million opening, we talked about it last week. If you didn't hear it, go back to the first episode of Beyond the Screen. You'll hear us blab on about it enough. However, once again, $250 million to produce. Their opening was terrible. However, with these 3 absolute powerhouses in front of it, the film didn't lose momentum. It stuck around with its $12.9 million across from one week to the next. What this means, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, his box office appeal is as strong as ever. Jake, what does this mean?
I guess it means that everybody disagrees with me because I'm not a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan in terms of like his. I just don't get the appeal. I like the guy, I guess, but it just. He plays the same character, and that would be the only reason he doesn't have the appeal to me is like, oh, he's playing himself, So, but to have 2 movies, top 5 I see a lot of TikToks that like just keep throwing money at the rock, and
Yeah.
people will come out of their out of the holes and under their rocks to come see them, and it appears to be working. And so maybe I'm the one in the wrong here.
No, I don't. The thing is, I don't entirely disagree with you. I think on terms of acting, you're completely right. He takes a very, the very same archetype every single role. Um, but the thing is that like my first instinct would be okay. I want to say this guy he rides Disney's coattails. That's all. He just finds these big time, like you'd think of him as Black Adam in DC, and just he finds these big, powerful production houses and franchises. He attaches himself to it, and naturally, you're going to make more money. But that just isn't the case. Red One is not attached to anybody. No, it's not making a lot of money, but it's sticking around in the top five, which for films that seem to flop, they don't really stick around for multiple weeks. Red One has. You can say that's because there's not a lot of films coming out right now. You can say whatever you want to say. I don't think that's necessarily the case. People feel like they can relate to this man. I think that it's an easy watch. And the thing with The Rock, despite him being the same role time and time again, you know what you're going to get. And most time it's fun. Red One has a great audience score. I think people can just relate. They know what they're going to get and they want it.
Fair enough. But enough about Red One. That'll be the second week we talk too much about Red One.
You're completely right.
What's up next, Ryan?
With the release of Wicked, many debates have sprung regarding the etiquette of moviegoers. Certain theater chains have put up signs asking for audience members in attendance not to sing while the film is in session. Just a proper etiquette thing around with like who's around you and just, hey, please be quiet. It's the same thing as like don't talk during the movie. I can understand that, but it's a little different when it's a musical adaptation. It's kind of like, do you allow this? Do you not? There's a big divide between musical fans who I'm assuming, I'm not a big theater bug, but I'm assuming people in theaters that they sing with the production when it's like a live theatrical play. I'm not sure if that's a thing. I could be dreaming. But either way, there's a big debate going on in this moment. Cynthia Erivo, who plays Elphaba in the film adaptation of Wicked, exclaimed in an interview during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, "It's time for everyone to join in," kind of emphatically putting her flag in the sand where she stands. Jake, what do you think in this debate? Where do you stand between sing and not sing, film etiquette and theater? What do you think?
Well, like you said, this being a Broadway adaptation. I'm not sure if that gives it the pass, but I can say that I don't think anybody sang in the Moana 1 screenings, or maybe even the Moana 2 screenings, or another one comes to mind, Frozen. Maybe the kids were, but I don't think people were singing in those. And those movies are predominantly, full of the characters singing. Most every scene has a song in it. So does it being an adaptation give it the pass? I'm leaning on the etiquette side. I think there's a time and place for it. You can listen to the soundtrack afterwards, sing along in your own time. It's a public place. Like, I don't go to a library and start screaming. Like that people are there, to read, to be quiet, I'm here to watch the movie. I'm here to listen to the song, hear the words, and I don't need Joe Schmo sitting next to me who's seen the movie 5 times screaming a song in my ear. I want to enjoy the movie, especially if it's my first time. And so that's kind of where I sit on it. I'm very big on etiquette within public spaces.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I tend to agree with you. And really it comes down to this, and I think you touched on it a little bit. The idea of this is an adaptation, and those other examples you used, they were new, so it's not like you could know the song going in unless Disney released the song. And I don't think they did before the movie came out. They seem to go in juncture. Like if it's a musical, whether it's an adaptation from a theatrical play or it's a film, they release the soundtrack in unison with the film because they want it to do well on the radio, right? I don't think that those other examples necessarily pertain to this in the sense of people know Wicked because it's been out for a decade plus, right? However, this is where I go with this, and you touched it, you hit it right on the money with kind of the second half of your debate here. For those who have not seen the movie, such as like myself, I've never seen Wicked on a theatrical stage, right? You want to go in and you want to be able to experience it for the first time, just like you did when you first saw it. Regardless if it was 12 years ago and you feel like everyone should know it, theater is not the same in terms of the social hierarchy and in the world of media and pop culture like film is. So if this were a movie 12 years ago and it re-released and people were singing, that's one thing. I think you have to afford those who are new to the franchise because there's going to be many sequels. Apparently, they just with this film. I think we talked about this last week too. This is only the first third. There's still two more acts in the story to go through. This movie is almost 3 hours long. However, allow those who haven't experienced the film before to experience it for the first time. Let them live that magic in this wonderful world of Oz, the Wizard of Oz. An interesting note to go along with this: certain high-end cinema chains are going to be re-releasing Wicked with a sing-along version December 25th. If you thought this was going to be the end of the Wicked controversies, oh, were you wrong. Not to be finished with a one debate spurring controversy, cinema fans have also been discussing the ethics of taking pictures of the film being screened to share on social media. After an Ariana Grande fan account on X, a fan account, let's get that out there. This was not her. A fan account on X, formerly known as Twitter, asked their followers to, quote, show your Wicked Part 1 photos. Following this request, a cavalcade of images from fans of both the celebrity and the musical flooded the comments. Jake, do I even have to say why you shouldn't do this? Do I have to go into a spiel?
No, I think the spiel I just gave over singing in the movie theater should tell you etiquette is one of the main things. I think that taking a photo, especially with the flash on, or even having your phone out in general with the screen brightness, it's a step worse. It's pretty rough. Just because, well, if you take the photo, most people are going to post it immediately afterward, after they take it. So they're on their phone, not just when they take the photo, but through the posting process, writing the comments, or writing the caption. So it's just not polite, man. Like I said, sitting next to you while you do that just ruins that magic. There's something about going to the theater that you want to be fully immersed, and that's why you go. You sit in that chair and you get to be in that world. And then I got Schmo next to me who's on Instagram, so it loses the magic 100%.
No, I completely agree. And I'm pretty sure it's a crime. Like, just to record and distribute these copyrighted material. It makes me think of back in the day when I was a kid, you had these really edgy anti-copyright commercials at the beginning of DVD films where it was like the dude in the hood and he's got his little camcorder in his jacket and it's like, it's a crime, don't do it. Those need to come back, except they need to be modernized. Stay the edginess factor. I loved it. It's so funny and it's just such a nostalgia kick, but make it a smartphone. And I think this would apply a lot. Now, I don't know how many people are still doing that thing, like recording movies to sell illegally. However, it's ridiculous. Exactly in terms of an etiquette thing, please do not record the screen. I cannot believe I have to say that. I don't care if Ariana Grande herself asked for it. Do not do it. Let people enjoy the film. Final note about Wicked: the film has grossed over $359 million worldwide and has had its soundtrack debut at number 2. Remember, we talked about films and musicals releasing their soundtrack side by side with the film. That soundtrack has debuted at number 2 on the Billboard Top 200 chart, which is the highest single debut for a musical adaptation ever. So if you're looking to see a musical, you got Moana, you got Wicked. Both seem to be doing fantastic. I think one with the music seems to be going further along in terms of the actual soundtrack department than the other. However, I don't think you can fail. 2 really good family movies are dominating the box office charts. And, it's a good time to be alive right now if you're a Disney/animation fan/musical fan. We'll talk about Gladiator 2 because, to be honest, there's not a lot to talk about with Ridley Scott's sequel. After grossing $320 million globally, sorry about that, Gladiator 2 becomes Denzel Washington's highest grossing film ever. So you think about all the legendary films that man's been in, this is the highest grossing one globally. It's a hit. $320 million is no joke. I'm pretty sure it's made its budget back and then some. If not, it's pretty close, and it's still very early in its run. Now, people might look at this and they say, well, it's 3, it fell from 2, and it's got all this competition. This is still a success. This is not Red 1. Gladiator 2 is a smash hit, and I'm happy to see that it's still around despite having those 2 absolute gladiators at top of it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is it's a good win for Denzel.
Oh yeah, definitely. Even the fact that he's did the Equalizer and other films, A Book of Eli, and then he's got what else has he got? Like the
Yeah.
Magnificent Seven under him, and this is what highest grosses because I love The Equalizer. So it's it's only up from here, I guess, for Gladiator 2. Even though there's not a lot to talk about, that is crazy that Denzel Washington is going like running away with it, you know.
Yeah.
So good on him.
We'll wrap up our box office segment by going through the rest of the top 10. Number 4, as we said, was Red One 5. The best Christmas pageant ever from Lionsgate comes in with a $4.8 million gross with a 32 total gross on its run. Venom: The Last Dance slips in at 6 with another 3 million, and it's 137 million total gross, just about to be 138 million. Number 7 is The Wild Robot. Stop me if you've heard these before. If you've been here last week, you will find this list to be very familiar. The Wild Robot totals another million, bringing its grand total domestically, I should say. All these are domestic numbers unless stated otherwise. Grand total to 142 million, just about 142.5. Heretic rounds out number 8 with just under a million. A Real Pain comes in at 900,000 from Searchlight Pictures, having just over 6 million in its total gross. And number 10, Conclave, Ray Fiennes and Focus Features comes in with 800,000, bringing its total to 30.1 million. Jake, any of those stand out to you?
Uh, Not necessarily. I mean, it's most of the lower half have been out there for 5+ weeks, and so now it's just a battle of who can stay in the top 10. I think we're going to see Venom stick around for a few more, and then The Wild Robot just being a kids film. It's on week 10, so
Yeah.
it might be on the way out. As for the other ones, Pastor Spy Assassin, don't know what that one's about, but it's sticking around top 6, or I believe, what'd you say it was? Not top 6, but around there. So,
yeah, that dropped to 12, but it's still sticking around. It's
it
made
dropped to 12?
It's
Okay.
made 6.7 million from Angel Studios. No, we talked about it last week. I mean, it's a good point. It's still top 15.
Yeah. So nothing too surprising. I just think some will have the longevity, others will be dropped. I do see that Venom is losing a significant amount of theaters carrying it, as well as the Wild Robots. So
For them to
they're
stick
probably
around
on the
after
way
that,
out too.
for them to stick around after
Yeah.
that shows, like you talk about, their longevity, but also this is just a week dominated by 3 absolute powerhouses. And on that note, that ends our first segment. Coming up after the break, what upcoming films will be competing for your attention as we hurtle towards the holiday season? This and so much more up next. Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You've made it to segment 2, Major News, the biggest things you should know from last week in cinema. Looking ahead to the Christmas box office, the week of December 20th through the 22nd, Paramount's Sonic 3 will go head-to-head with Disney's Mufasa, The Lion King. Early tracking projects Sonic to earn $55 million, with Mufasa trailing behind at $50 million. If you wonder why that's a shocker, this is coming off of Jon Favreau's 2019 adaptation of The Lion King, which earned $1.7 billion globally. Now, if you were here last week, you will know that we kind of corralled The Lion King into a list of Disney live-action adaptations that failed, and I'm here to say we were wrong. I don't remember it being that good of a movie. I don't remember it succeeding like that, but apparently it did because it made almost $2 billion, and I think that's an international number, yeah, globally. $2 billion in its run, which is just insane. So with that context, taking a Sonic 3 and putting it right up against a Mufasa, which is a direct prequel to The Lion King, that's a pretty big upset. Both films look to begin a major marketing push heading into the holiday season, with Disney having just waited for Thanksgiving to end before it really pushed out anything major for Mufasa, and Paramount has been busy with, you guessed it, Gladiator 2. They've had a lot of promotion about that, so they're just now kind of turning the corner saying, look, this is out, you've seen it, you know it's still out, and you know it'll be out. However, we got this moving forward. Who do we think will win, Jake?
I mean, I can't deny the number we were wrong about last week, but I think if Lion King stays true to those numbers, I'm gonna put my money on Lion King. I think as good as Sonic could be, I don't think it'll pull the numbers. I think Lion King is one of those classics that you can't pass up seeing. Even whether or not it's gonna be crazy good, crazy bad, right in the middle. It still has that the legacy, and people will go see it for Pumbaa for the
Timon.
shoot, his name escapes. Who?
Timon.
Yeah.
Timon and
So
Pumbaa.
I think that's what draws people in. So Sonic 3 being a newer one, I don't see it performing as well as Mufasa.
No, and I think that's a valid point. However, I actually disagree. And for multiple points, but my first point being, let's just read the cast. Let's start out just by going through. You got Donald Glover, Seth Rogen, and Beyonce for Mufasa. All returning, by the way, from their original roles in the 2019 hit. Across from them, for Sonic 3, you've got Jim Carrey, Keanu Reeves, and Idris Elba. I don't know about you, but one definitely kind of outranks the other in terms of intrigue, in terms of interest factor, and in terms of just star power. I think Donald Glover and Seth Rogen, especially Beyonce, yes, they're very much like kind of at the tip of the iceberg. They are at the top of the mountain in terms of idols that many people kind of look up to, right? But in terms of actual like serious, which is funny to say that about Sonic 3, but a lot of people have been excited for this third installment. Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba are two of the hardest hitting actors in any franchise in any movie ever. Then you add the absolute, just I call them rubber face. It's where they could be whatever role they want. Jim Carrey fits that role. He gets typecasted into a lot of comedies, and this will not break the mold. It's still a comedy. However, he brings a lot of dynamic, just repertoire to a Dr. Robotnik. And on top of it, video game adaptations do really well. We just talked about the Super Mario Bros. Last year setting an all-time midweek rollout record, right? That stood, yes, a year and a half, but still. I don't know. I kind of lean towards Sonic. I kind of want Sonic to win. This is a kind of a grown from the ground up movie franchise. Thinking back, we talked once again, another thing we mentioned last week, Sonic, when he originally made his awesome debut as a terrorizingly just horrid whatever he wasn't even a hedgehog. His original like animation in the live action realm was terrible. To see it, the fans, I should say, to see the fans go crazy and require this change, and to see it now, however many years later, I'd say almost a decade later, with its third installment bringing in more stars than it can count, with more excitement than a Disney live adaptation of The Lion King, even if it is a prequel, that's a story. I would absolutely, I guess I'm speaking with my heart more than I'm speaking with what I might actually, like what probably will happen. I'd love to see Sonic 3 beat Mufasa.
Yeah, I mean, the earnings, you said globally being 1.7 billion. Domestic for the first Lion King was right there with, I believe, the first Sonic. If I just looked it up, not even blows it out of the water. Domestic should have been, I think, 148 million. Worldwide, 319 million. So the first Lion King already blew Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 out of the water. I think even Sonic 2 might have been around about the same, like 320 or 500 million total. So, I mean, money wise, not so much, critic score or even audience score. I'm still going to be on Lion King's side until they prove me wrong. I'm going to follow the money, and I'm gonna put it on black. I'm gonna say the Lion King will beat it out. I don't know what it is about the global market or even domestic. I swear it's legacy. I think it's nostalgia. I think it's gonna win.
Yeah, and let's be honest here. The Disney global brand will always beat a Paramount brand, right? Like it will always outdo almost any brand. I will say for Paramount, in terms of a global realm, they did just set a record for an R-rated film with Gladiator 2 at 87 million the week before it premiered domestically. So I don't know. I'm interested to see. I would at least like to see, if not globally, at least domestically, Sonic win out. But who knows? However, if you're here to listen to something more than just us discuss superhero and video game adaptation films and live action animation films, right around the corner, past that December 20th to 22nd weekend, the day of Christmas itself, Robert Eggers drops his next, what many are calling his next masterpiece. Early critics of Robert Eggers and Focus Features' upcoming Nosferatu adaptation rave about the film. With 47 reviews as of an hour ago now to recording, the film stands at a 96%. Its red carpet just happened in Berlin. People are loving this film, calling this adaptation a devilishly seductive, deeply chilling horror masterpiece. That's by Rotten Tomatoes. Critics are continuing and saying that with Lily Rose Depp, this is a career-making performance. The film also stars Bill Skarsgård, Willem Dafoe, Emma Corrin, Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and more. There are some continuous Robert Eggers kind of lineups. He produces a film. Certain people like Willem Dafoe show up. I don't know. Historically, Robert Eggers films don't perform super well in the box office, but they do become cult classics. He's not had a ton of films. He's got a really youthful filmography, but they all stand out in their own unique ways. The last film he came out with was The Northman, and it bombed in the box office. Jake, how do you think this film will fare with its Christmas Day release?
I mean, yeah, the thing I want to go to see is a horror on Christmas, you know? So I still think it's gonna do good. Like you said, stacked cast. It means something. There's a lot of people who fawn over Skarsgård for. I mean, I remember when it came out, and even it too. They were like, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Something about Bill Skarsgård does it for people. Him as a vampire now. We might see some of the Twilight people who love vampires come out of the
Oh,
woodworks.
God.
Yeah, not looking forward to that one. So we're gonna see some Bill Skarsgård love, but Aaron Taylor Johnson, like you said, Nicholas, I think it's Holt
Yep.
or Holt.
Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah, Holt. And then I'm a Defoe fan through and through. This might be one of the horror movies that I go see. I did say it in the first episode. I am not a horror person, but this one might be because I do remember in SpongeBob when he was flicking the light switch on and off. That was my first kind of introduction to Nosferatu. And
Nosferatu. Yeah, I know exactly what you're
yeah,
talking about.
yeah, and then I became a film major and actually watched it for real. But I always go back to that SpongeBob. So I doubt they're gonna do an homage to the SpongeBob. But how funny would it be if they just had him turn the light switch on? I
Yeah,
think that would be an amazing callback.
some
Um,
crowd servicing there.
oh yeah. I lean on the fence for crowd service, but that one I do want to see. I think it would be funny to see Skarsgård turn the light switch on.
Yeah.
That might kill the whole horror, but
You
I
never
don't
know. I
know.
mean, he could do it in a horror fashion, and the only people who get it are those who actually know what reference you're making. And so it's like it's just sly, you know. I would be there for it. I don't think it would entirely kill the mood. I mean, maybe for like 5 minutes, but supposedly, and this is why I'm really excited for this film, is because I was reading somewhere, and as I said last episode, I'm a big fan of the genre. Apparently, according to one critic, and I wish I had written it down, this film puts the scary back in vampires. You talked about Twilight. Twilight kind of romanticized the medium, romanticized the horror icon. Supposedly, this brings it back into a more terrifying realm, and he looks freaky in the small glimpses we got of him in the trailer. I'm for one really excited for this film. I have watched every single Eggers movie, and not one of them misses. I love just the complexity of every character. I love his world building. If you were here last episode, once again, I'm so sorry for all the callbacks, but that just means go listen to that one so you know what I'm talking about. But I love when a creator is able to transport you physically, you feel it physically into a realm that they crafted, and it starts with pen on paper, and to watch it through a lens is just beyond just exhilarating, especially for two people. I know, Jake, you can relate. Two people who have a degree in this, who've studied this, who want to make films in a similar manner. So I've watched every single I've watched every single Eggers film. I'm super excited to watch this one. However, I think it will have an uphill battle, not because of what's coming out the weekend before. I think that it will do well enough. I don't think it's going to do a crazy box office, like in terms of numbers. It's not going to be crazy because it's Christmas and no one's going to go out. I think what will really kind of damper it down a little bit is the fact that if you remember earlier, we talked about Wicked having their sing-along version coming out the exact same day. I think Wicked will make a lot more on that than Nosferatu will do having it in its entire run. I think that will kill it. I don't think in terms of the previous weekend, I really think it'll be Wicked's resurgence with a sing-along, because you know all those people who wanted to sing, who are mad right now, who enjoyed it like I had described earlier, the first time they saw it in a theater, they're going to have that same experience or try to have that same experience in a theater setting with Ariana Grande on screen, and they're going to love it. And it's going to take away a lot what could have been for Nosferatu. which will just, if anything, it's just the way that Eggers films go. But what does this mean? He fails
Well,
up, if you want to put it into that perspective. If you base films off of success and failures by the box office numbers, he's going to continue to fail up because he makes great films that do well, just in terms of in the mythos of people who enjoy his genre.
well, yeah, and like you said, it's upward battle. You can't necessarily forget about the people who are seeing Wicked for the first time and then also go back on Christmas
Valid.
to also be in that. So it's not just people who wanted to sing to begin with, it's the people who just saw Wicked who now want to sing. And so I think it's going to be just as big. I mean, it's not going to hit the same numbers, but half minimum of people who came and saw
Yeah.
this, saw Wicked the first time, probably going to come back and sing along the second time.
And and to go back to that conversation about sing-alongs before we move on, those who were on the opposite side, who are listening to the opposition say, man, let us sing, let us have fun, they might want to experience the fun that is to be had, to further your point. So yeah, I can completely agree with that. Um, let's just keep all these movies we've talked about in mind, especially Sonic and Nosferatu. We're furthering this box office battle a little bit because it's not just ticket sales that boost production, that boost these numbers. Sometimes it can be a popcorn bucket. Sonic, in particular, is releasing a Sonic head popcorn bucket. So if you go and you pay $50, I don't know what it is, you're going to get a Sonic the Hedgehog head with an opening, and it's a big bucket you can put your popcorn in. Nosferatu is coming out with a sarcophagus popcorn bucket. This is just furthering a trend that has been absolutely brilliant in the year 2024. Dune 2 had its worm bucket. Wolverine's mouth, his head, the mouth was the bucket. For Deadpool 3, the Xenomorph head for Alien Romulus, Inside Out 2's anger caricature model for their popcorn bucket that lit up, which kind of makes no sense in a movie theater, whatever. We've seen a lot of this year in particular. Jake, what are your thoughts on these custom popcorn buckets that these high-end production houses are allowing to be made and sold in high-end chains throughout the nation?
Uh, uh, I will always kind of steer clear of the consumerism aspect of it. It's most of them. I mean, they're plastic, right? It's not much is going into them from a business standpoint. However, we can make these penny on the dollar and sell them for $50. Holy crap, dude! Money is made, I think. And so I'm looking at the sarcophagus right now. You guys should definitely go look it up. It looks awesome. It honestly looks like it's made out of cardboard and paper. So it's definitely going to get all that butter and that popcorn. So you'll remember going to Nosferatu just from the smell of this bucket sitting in
Yeah.
your room. Um, but it's going to get old. I don't know if it'll ever die, but I don't think sales are going to remain steady or even go up anymore. How many popcorn buckets are we in now? And I don't know. I think what you'd have to do to keep it going, or at least having a success for your movie, is to kind of hype it the way Deadpool did, and get a little bit more raunchy, or just do something that's crazy, And they're doing that. It's more than just making a head, the popcorn bucket. So the sarcophagus, I would say, is a decent idea. The Dune worm being the mouth, that's an idea, but just having the head of the main character, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah, I like the originality from the sarcophagus. It's kind of cool. Like, it's unique. It's not just exactly what you said. It's not just a caricature of the main character that you're eating popcorn out of. I will say, for me, this craze it's really cool to kind of see. You talk about from a commercial standpoint, these theater chains and these production houses, they're thinking, okay, we're dealing with an audience that has the lowest attention span of all time. We're trying to get them to sit through 90 minutes to even 3 hours worth of a story. What can we give them in response outside of just the what is the story, I guess? Like, what is the reward? What can we do to get people in seats, even if it's just for, let's say, a popcorn bucket? I love this because in my mind, this is a direct response to kind of just everything the way society is, just in terms of how we ingest media and stories. I think in the minds of these people who are like, okay, one, how do we make more money? Two, how do we make, like, kind of like, people love trinkets. How do we successfully accomplish this little niche of people wanting to collect things? People will go show up for anything. You give a free t-shirt out, a free rubber band, people will show up. let's make this really cool thing. Exactly like you said, it's pennies on the dollar. However, it's something that people will remember forever. It's something people can keep. This is a direct response in my mind, and I love it. I'd love to see where it continues to go. I hope this is a trend that lasts for a really long time. I know I will probably be. I said I'd already be in a theater seat for Nosferatu. I might spend an extra $30 on that sarcophagus just because it looks so cool. Like it's just something that it's a conversation starter, if you will. You're at home, you're having people over, and they're like, "Why do you have this coffin like sitting on your coffee table?" And it's like, "Let me tell you." And it's a it's a bowl. So I don't, I'm really a fan of it. I don't know. I love the craze, and I hope it continues because I am one of those who likes trinkets. I like little items.
Oh yeah, yeah. I looked up a picture and it looks much thicker than like just made out of paper or it's like super thick popcorn bucket material. So I don't think you're gonna be able to put anything in it unless you absolutely clean this thing out. But it it might be one of those conversation starters you leave on a bookshelf or you keep your knickknacks in it or whatever. It's not a hinged lid, unfortunately, which that would drive up the price. But yeah, it's quite big. It's about the size of like I guess a full keyboard width, I think, and about a keyboard depth. So it's big enough to really be like, what in the world do you have on your bookshelf? And Ryan's gonna be like, let me tell you, let me, and then you've opened the can of worms, and yeah, and then you're just gonna have to sit there and listen to this guy talk about eggers all day.
It is my way to yap about my favorite thing on this planet, and it is movies. And you know what? If you're mad about that, you could just be mad because I love it. I love to yap. I love trinkets and I love to yap. With that, we have ended our second segment. Coming up after the break, we discuss what you should know before you go in the world of cinema here on Beyond the Screen. Welcome back. Segment 3, what you should know. We're going to get right into it. There's a lot we're going through, but first, thank you so much for listening. If you've gotten this far, we love you. Thank you so much. Please give it a like, give it a share, comment. Maybe you'll hear one of your questions. Say you want to have a certain topic discussed on the show. You might hear it on the show if you leave a comment down underneath the episode. Hopping in. Wednesday Season 2 and Fantastic Four First Steps have both wrapped filming this past week. Jake, which are you looking forward to more and why?
I was not super big into Wednesday. Now that I've watched, what was, gosh, it escapes me now. Beetlejuice. I saw that. I'm like, okay, maybe I give Wednesday a second shot. Fantastic Four has flopped more times than I care to admit because I wanted to see Fantastic Four work even the second time with the new cast. So this one, I don't have high hopes. I wish, I wish, but I don't think it's gonna do it. I think Wednesday's going to be the more popular one. That's one you're going to see a lot more on social media of. I think Wednesday, the first season of Wednesday was big on TikTok and Instagram. I just don't think Fantastic Four is going to be as big of a hit.
No, and I can agree with that about Fantastic Four. I grew up watching the original 2 movies with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba, and for a kid they were fine. Like they're good kid movies. They're not really something you're going to show up and be like, what's the story like MCU movies are like today. However, I am one that is very excited for Wednesday Season 2. I had a lot of fun with the original series. The thing is it hit home in terms of like it felt so down to earth despite what you're watching, right? The story was just, I mean, it was a thriller aspect, it was a mystery aspect. It left you guessing at every turn, and it didn't try too hard. That's what I loved about Wednesday, the original. Despite its social media, it was a powerhouse. It was a media frenzy. People went nuts for Jenna Ortega. Thing is, for me, once again, it didn't try too hard to be whimsical, but it was. It didn't try too hard to make you question. It didn't leave like a lot of times with these mystery stories, in particular with like these the Addams family, these big IPs. They want to hit something in terms of a mystery to keep you coming back, but a lot of times they leave too little, right? Like you want to leave enough that people understand, wrap their head around and go, huh, but not to where you lose out on like, I don't understand what's happening. Wednesday did it perfectly. Just a little trail, little breadcrumb trail, and one episode into the next. It was a great family friendly show. I watched it with all of my family, and I loved it. I had a great experience, and I watched it multiple times. So Wednesday season 2, I am so excited for. I'm really worried about it being a letdown more than anything, but I will happily watch Wednesday before a Fantastic Four. I do love Pedro Pascal, and I will probably end up watching the Fantastic Four first steps. However, for me, I think the MCU should have at least taken a hiatus after Endgame. I know that's really not very popular. I know a lot of people have given it, given the newer shows and up till this last year, Marvel's attempt to continue the story. They've given it a lot of crap. They've gone over about how like what they should have done versus what they shouldn't have done. I think they should have just taken a break, allow people to kind of rejuvenate their interest in the superhero genre because DC's not doing nothing, like at least not until next year. And they had the last 5 years to really kind of take a break, get their story right, and then continue telling it like they had before. However, that money called, and I have no interest in Marvel movies as they have been. I will still, like I said, I'll probably watch it just to see what it's about. But MCU doesn't call to me like it used to. Moving on. In February of this year, if you remember way back when, it was reported that Tim Burton was connected to a remake of the 1958 cult classic Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Now, if you are not caught up on your 1950s and 60s cult classic lore, I do not blame you.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Like I didn't know
Come
what it
on,
was
man.
even. Had no. Why are you watching this movie in particular? According to IMDb,
Yeah, what are you getting into? 50-foot woman, man.
Yeah.
I think it's a select audience that that are still watching Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Right, and
But
so
if you don't know,
if you're like the rest of us, yeah, exactly. Like I don't know who would have known this movie outside of if your grandpa went to watch it in theaters when it came out and they just remembered it and showed it to you against your will. But if you do want to know what it's about, according to IMDb, quote, when an abused socialite grows to giant size because of an alien encounter and an aborted murder attempt, she goes after her cheating husband with a revenge plot on her mind. Now, if you were like me when I read that for the first time and you heard this, that felt like at every corner there was something new slapping you in the face. There were so many different stereotypes, just one after the other. Just there was an attempted murder, but she ran into aliens. Then she grew to giant size, and her husband's cheating on her. It's just a lot to kind of wrap your head around. Apparently, people love this movie, and it is still remembered because Tim Burton's about to make a remake of it. However, that might not be the case because in a recent interview with Deadline, Burton explained that he has no real projects at the moment. Burton would go on to describe that until he is on a set making the film, he's reluctant to say the project is happening due to previous experiences that were, quote, quite traumatic. These examples that he were using, because he didn't just say they were traumatic, he was giving examples. He went on to describe at one point, he was making a Superman movie. If you remember, he made the Batman movies back in the 80s and the early 90s. He was making a Superman film that got canned last minute. There was another film he described where he chronicled he was on set for a year working on this film before it got ripped out from under him, and it hurt. So, in response, he doesn't get connected to a lot of these projects until he's actually making the film, and even then, you have to wonder, until it's on screen, is it real? Is it a reality? And that makes me think of Warner Brothers with Wile E. Coyote versus Acme and all that stuff about cans and taxes and all that happened recently, which if you don't know what that is, you should look into it. We don't have enough time here today to talk about it. Really sad stuff for a really good movie and a lot of creators. But coming back to Tim Burton, it seemed like in the interview, he was outlining his frustrations with creating such projects throughout Hollywood and with these big-time production companies. Jake, with all that in mind, it doesn't sound like he's not making it, but it doesn't sound like he's convinced it is. What level of optimism do you have that this weird film gets made?
I'll take Burton for his word. Because to have not once, not even twice, I don't think he's probably had this happen more than just the twice. If he's gonna have this kind of viewpoint on it, I think that it's not looking good for the 50-foot woman lovers out there. So I have to take him for his word. I don't think that it's moving very fast, if even at all. So we might not see it. As awesome as that synopsis sounded, it sounded like a film that you could go to and kind of make fun of, even if it was going to be serious. You know, you can kind of play around and be like, okay, she was a socialite who met an alien, massive lady now, and then she's got a revenge plot against her cheating husband. It just sounds like something that keeps you enthralled, and it's not something that you're going for. This world building story, you're going to be like, all right, what's next? You know, what could possibly happen to this 50-foot woman that hasn't already happened? So it's sad to hear that Burton is not working on any real projects, and take it with, with that a grain of salt. Real projects does mean that, he's just not working on it right now, probably because it's not moving anywhere. Doesn't mean it's not in the works, but probably not going to be anytime soon.
First, I want that on a t-shirt or a hat, that line of "it's not looking good for any 50-foot woman lovers." I want that on a hat. That is the line of the year. Secondly,
it's a sad line. It's a very sad line.
That might be my favorite line of the year, and I want it on something that I can wear around. But getting into the question here, I want to see it made because exactly what you said. There's, like, we talked about world building. We've talked about just stories that make you cry. We've talked about stories like this and that make you change your perspective on the life and reality. On the opposite side of that, we also talked about films just being fun. And I think this is one with Tim Burton's goofy gothic style that he can have from time to time, not just the serious stuff like we talked about Wednesday. That one's a little bit more serious, a little bit more mystical, I should say. I would love to see Tim Burton. Think about what he accomplishes when he does claymation. Think about some of the silliness factor he's able to pull out in some of those movies and just the goofiness. Apply that just concept to what I read earlier for this synopsis. I would love it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I'd be interested to see where the story goes and how it's adapted from its original tale in the 50s. Once again, I'm leading with my heart and hoping rather than actually saying. I think it's a kind of a dual-edged sword. If he's saying, hey, I'll just wait till I get on a set, he's not denying it, but the fact that he has to have any sort of pessimism makes me think he's getting pushback, which is not great. So if I had to guess, film's probably closer to dead in the water than it is being alive. Moving on, if you watch Deadpool 3 or Deadpool and Wolverine, you will know it's a very crude film. It's very fun, but it's got a lot of humor that can only be attributed to the Merc with a Mouth himself. Despite Disney's overall green light to Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy regarding this smash hit and that sense of humor, one joke went a little too far for the House of Mouse. Now, thanks to a recent report, we know exactly what executives thought went too far. The line, and I'm not going to read it verbatim because it is Deadpool and it is Ryan Reynolds, and I'm trying to keep this a family-friendly show, but I will abbreviate. The line, as it was before it was changed, was F. What we can't even afford one more X-Man. Disney is so cheap, I can barely breathe with all that Mickey Mouse blank, 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 blank. That line apparently rubbed Disney the wrong way, and so they asked him to change it, and so, they made it the family-friendly PG version of F. Now Disney gets cheap. It's like Pinocchio jammed his face in my blank and blank, 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 blank. I remember the second line, and it was hilarious, but I didn't think it was necessarily better than the first one. Outside of the obvious, Jake, why didn't this pass the sniff test for Disney?
I think, Mickey Mouse being their, it's not namesake, but the Mickey Mouse is the logo. It's the shape of his head. It's on T-shirts. It's the hat. It's the mouse ears that everybody wears when they go to the theme park. So you can, it's not villainized, but you can put Pinocchio in Mickey Mouse's place and get away with it more than their main guy, And I think Disney's is. I'm surprised they let him say anything bad about Disney at all. But I know that Ryan had a lot of pull in this movie, so I think he had to get something out about Disney. They weren't going to get away with it, and of course, Disney's going to follow the money, so they have to let him get away with something. And if it's Pinocchio caught a stray, but they were definitely not going to let him do that to Mickey Mouse.
I just love the idea that they were like, we must protect our boy. And they looked over at Pinocchio and said, you, you are the one. And they let Pinocchio take the fall. Like, why?
Well,
I love
well, to be
Pinocchio.
fair, in Shrek, right? Was it the second one? They got Pinocchio in ladies' underwear, so he's
Yeah.
already been kind of put in that light that Pinocchio's into some stuff.
No, it's just weird, man. Like it's funny that it's always Pinocchio. Regardless, it was a hilarious line, and I guess kind of my point is that like I didn't think the second one was any better than the first. Like you would think to hear, oh, that line had to be changed. It crossed a line in terms of it was too crude. It was just, despite this being Deadpool, we're still trying to make this somewhat family friendly, which like whatever, take that as you will. But then they put in a line that was equally as bad. And I just didn't think, like I thought it was just kind of hypocritical, but I do understand trying to protect Mickey himself and keep him out of any phallic conversation. They don't want their precious mouse seen in any sort of light outside of what he is, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Moving
Right.
along.
And
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't think it's any less phallic, like you said. So it truly does boil down to who who do we base all of our merchandise off of? Who are we? It's Mickey Mouse. It's not Pinocchio. So that's what it boils down to.
Yeah. And our last story of the day, an interesting comment by an award-winning director, one you definitely know. Across the Star Wars fandom, many have their own wildly varying takes on the beloved franchise. Some are better than others, some are terrible, some are okay. In a recent interview with the Town podcast, Dune director Denis Villeneuve outlined why he has no desire to step into the galaxy far, far away ever. He will not do it. He said, quote, I mean, The Empire Strikes Back is the movie that I anticipated the most in my life. I saw the movie a billion times on screen. I was traumatized by The Empire Strikes Back. I adore Star Wars. The director continues, the problem is that it all derailed in 1983 with Return of the Jedi. It turned out to be a comedy for kids. Star Wars became crystallized in its own mythology, very dogmatic. It seemed like a recipe, no more surprises. So I'm not dreaming to do a Star Wars because it feels like code is very codified. Jake, what do you make of Villeneuve's absolutely pessimistic take on one of the most beloved franchises and trilogies of all time?
Um, as a pessimist myself, so I think that you can easily be discouraged by that. But looking at, and I'm one of those like new age Star Wars haters. I hate new age Star Wars. Um, I don't care if it's TV. I don't care, movies. I do not like the new ones. But I can't help but look at it as like, why not make that the fuel to make a better one? I think Disney's taken the liberty to tell their own story, continue the story. I don't think there's anything stopping him from telling Star Wars how he wants it to be told. So don't take it as I'm never jumping into the Star Wars. Take it as like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make the Star Wars that I think it should be. So that puts it in a more optimistic light. But I can understand that, like, I don't want to touch Star Wars at a 10-foot pole with all the movies and the TV shows that have come out. Even though I think Ahsoka was decent, but yeah, I don't blame him. But I am surprised that he didn't take a more optimistic role. Like, I think I could do better. He didn't even say that he thinks he can do better.
Yeah.
So it's sad life to live if you're thinking that pessimistic that you couldn't do better.
No, and I can agree with that. And I think to further Villeneuve's perspective is that a lot of people have wanted new original stories outside of the Skywalker saga. They just announced that they're bringing back Daisy Ridley for another trilogy potentially within the same story, which just seems a little silly to me. I don't know. I can understand to the point to where this is a guy who has made the Blade Runner. He made the both Dunes. He is around original stories. He's around adapting stories. He's around, like, this is his whole point, is building worlds, and the fact that he can't feel like, or the fact that he doesn't feel like he can create that in literally Star Wars, where every time they come up with a new story, it's adding new, it's like they're not basing it off anything else at this point. Everything new about Star Wars is completely new and original because there's no one else to tell them not to, right? Like new worlds, they come up with new planets, they come out with new star systems, they come up with new ships, they come up with new enemies all the time. And the fact that this guy, one of the most creative guys in all of cinema, it doesn't feel like he can create something original new because of the code, as he said, that Star Wars has kind of succumbed to and stuck in. I think that says a lot about Star Wars. I love Star Wars. It was honestly my first love. It led me a lot into what I am today in terms of my sci-fi fandom and my creative mind. But it is sad to look around and to hear someone who is as highly regarded, an award-winning director like Denis Villeneuve, and to see he has a point. It is sad, but I think he's got a point. And maybe we just made...
Can you imagine... sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no.
Can you imagine a Blade Runner style Star Wars though?
It would be amazing.
You want to talk about the I'm him memes, you know, like I drive, you know, or I'm the Blade Runner guy. I can't imagine what a Star Wars movie might do to just meme culture in general.
Yeah, and just think about, there have been a lot of calls for Star Wars horror films because there's so many things that have been teased in terms of scary creatures and just potential for that realm. Disney won't do it. And I think that once again, final note, I really think Denis got a point. And on that note, that is our show. Jake, do you have any final comments before we let the people go throughout their week?
Let's all put our hands together and pray that we get to see a 50-foot woman soon.
And on that note, like, subscribe, share, do all the fun things that help us out if you can. Leave a comment down below. As I said earlier, you might be featured. What your topic of conversation, your question might be debated by yours truly on another episode of Beyond the Screen. Take care, everybody.